let's talk about routes that are puck friendly for something like Priory.
Mm.
This is the one that I just opened my MDT, and this is like the last one I got.
Okay.
So I assume this is like a puck route that I had up here. What do you think of this route here?
Yeah, so if I were gonna make a puck route in Priory, I'd try and make a route that's like very puck friendly. So you wanna try and avoid having too much like random damage going on. So as you can see, the first pull is kind of nice. So skipping the knight, which is something that people used to do. The knight does the demo shout, does AoE damage, and it does random impales on targets. There's also a lot of damage, and it applies a bleed. So skipping that is good. That's what they're also doing here. The first pull has a lot of casters though, so it's gonna be a little bit awkward to set it up without people like assigning interrupts, right? So are you playing with a Vengeance Demon Hunter right now? Because that's gonna help a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then and is that the guy that linked the route?
No, he didn't link a route just yet.
Okay.
That's why I'm just looking at this random previous route that I have.
Yeah, there's a lot of casters to the first pull, but I would probably do it a little bit different. I'll probably add a little bit more footmans and stuff like that, which is just a little bit less available, I guess. Because like if you don't have a good CC chain, then there's gonna be random bolts flying and people will take a bit of damage. But if you have a good group, then it's usually not an issue. This is a dungeon where AoE stops is required to a big degree, right? I also think this pull 3 where they added the mini boss. Yeah, exactly.
This is the proper route.
This is more of a puck friendly route, but the first pull is quite rough on the damage taken department, but should be fine. The 15.
I always like how in the pack groups the tank links the route and then immediately does a ready check, not giving anyone the opportunity to actually check the route. All right.
But you can see a different thing he did, right? On the High Priest, he added footmans and sharpshooters. So there's nothing else to interrupt other than the mini boss on the pull 4. Oh. That's a bit easier. And there's no light spawns. Light spawns, they are really good count, but they do quite a bit of damage. Right.
No comments on route, he asked. It's fine. Perfect. So we didn't do a skip here with this route, right?
No. He does a pull with the footmans and the knight.
Okay.
So
on this first pull, what would you watch out for as a range DPS? What should I be doing?
Well, you should be careful of. First of all, you should be moonfiring a little bit earlier than what you're doing here, but
I'm scared to get aggro. Yeah. I'm used to getting aggro.
But what you should be looking out for is the cooldown of the Thunderclap and the cooldown of the Disrupting Shout. This one, boom, this does a lot of damage. And if you're targeted by an Impale as well, and if you have any of those mechanics happening and you're getting targeted by Pot Shot, which you're getting 2 of right here, we got Nova. So it's just about looking at the different things happening at the same time, really. And then when the Footmans go to 50%, they're gonna do defend, which is gonna reduce the damage taken of everyone that's around it. So
they only do that 50. Okay.
Yes.
No, didn't know that.
So it's just being ready to stop that as soon as possible. Just about being proactive with your personals here.
This guy is just casting it through.
Yeah, here for example, I would probably do like a I mean, you could track the cooldown of the defend as well. You have it on nameplate to the right. Pre-put down.
I do have it here.
Yeah.
I guess I only have the Thunderclap cooldown that I'm tracking, not the defend cooldown.
Yeah, you did do Incap Roar as well, which is good. You could have probably done like a Vortex Typhoon to help out a bit more with the stops, but
yeah, I had I didn't want a Typhoon only, I guess, and I had used the Vortex to stop the sharpshooters jumping out initially, which I guess is not needed if the ranged are in.
You don't have a DK, so it's not too bad that you did that. But they were up against the wall. I think you could just have knocked it into the wall. Would have been fine.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so he's using a line spot. This is what I said. It was a bit awkward with the amount of casters, but this is actually a pretty good line spot that he's using here. Are you tracking AoE stops anywhere? Or below? Yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Now the Demon Hunter is most likely going to do a grip sigil soon. He doesn't have silence yet. He's probably going to know when to silence now, I'd imagine. Yeah, he's doing a silence now.
Yeah, I need to track the silence sigil on the nameplates as well, because I guess with Solar Beam, I have to be very careful to not interrupt the sigil, right? I definitely do that sometimes because I don't see it properly.
Yeah, what you could... where do you usually look? Because you have like CC stops as icons below the rate frame. Do you like that? Do you look at that?
No, not really. I mean, I do look at it when I know that he's gonna do sigil, but if it's like in the middle of combat, then I will just miss it. So that's why I should add it to the nameplates, in my opinion. I think that's probably where I look at the most, or where I would see it the most when he uses it.
Yeah.
Because I also don't track, like I don't look at interrupts very much because, I mean, I obviously have like a really long cooldown on my interrupts, so I'm not keeping track of it all of the time.
Yeah, I mean, I think Beam is kind of broken now that you that you can get it down to 45 seconds. So you kind of have it for like every pull, kind of. Like here would be a good Beam because he had silence 2-second cooldown, right?
Yeah.
If I were you, I would probably... I mean, it also depends a little bit. When you're pugging, I think it's good that people are actively tracking stuff, right? Like, but you also don't need a crazy amount of stuff, right? Unless you wanna be a shot caller. But
Yeah.
since you're as a Moonkin, whenever you're pugging, I think the most important thing is just that you are actively seeing when the tank is doing stops, right? And kind of like fitting in your solar beam outside of his stuff. Because I think most Gingi's Demon Hunter tanks, they're kind of going to go in and they're going to do their setup. Like get some initial aggro, they're going to do their grip, then they're going to do their Nova, then they're going to do their silence. And that's like a good time to then after that silence use beam. Like here, he doesn't have silence, he uses Nova. So I'd beam here, for example. It's a great beam.
Yeah.
Because he also, you saw he uses his spear sigil here. So I think most Gingi Demon Hunter tanks are used to like, their role is kind of just doing as much as possible themselves. Now you guys are out of stops. Now, at least from the Demon Hunter, this is where, you know, the mage should pitch in. You should pitch in as well and help out. But I don't think that mage has pressed his Supernova or his Blast Wave a single time in this key so far. And I think that...
So that priest
yeah?
just casted like a healing, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
And I could have knocked it, but like I don't know, like I feel like I'm always hesitant to knock if I don't have my vortex ready. I
mean, you should also be that. I mean, whenever you start knocking stuff and it starts getting spread out, it's not really ideal for, let's say, people's damage. So I think that's not a bad idea. I think you can use the Vortex Typhoon as a stop in most cases, also towards the end of a pull when people are running out. What I like to do whenever I'm playing with people is kind of get an idea of like what you can expect from the team. So looking at, for example, seeing that the mage is not using his stops very often, then you can expect that, okay, whenever the Demon Hunter tank is done with his stops, you're probably the one that should pitch in, otherwise Cass will be going off. Because he's not going to be pressing much. You kind of just need to step in a bit more and help, well, complete the key without shambles happening, right? So I think that's an important thing to be able to do. It's like, oh no, you died. Okay, you're the only combat wrestler in the group as well. Yeah. What did you die to? Big Deathlock? We got melee. Yeah. Demon Hunter aggro is not the best. So I'd probably not be in melee as you're dotting. Be a little bit further away and then be very like good with using Shadow Melt. I think you accidentally muted, by the way.
Oh, I did mute.
Yeah.
So what I was saying was, I'm usually scared when my tank does like a chain pull.
Yeah.
Because basically my Starfalls are already running and the tank pulls, and then I know, okay, all of this stuff is gonna be aggroed on me. So I try to position myself in a way where they walk through the tank. But I'm not sure if that's good, because then they maybe don't necessarily understand that I have a lot of aggro, because it walks towards them, you know? I don't know.
But I mean, it's true. If the tank starts chaining and you have like 3-4 Starfalls flying out, I mean, and he doesn't do good initial aggro, that is like you definitely need to be careful in those moments, for sure. I mean, Demon Hunter just has bad threat and a lot of bugged abilities in general. They have fixed a few of them, but
Some of it lately, right? Yeah.
yeah.
So this cast here, how important is it to actually interrupt this Cinder Blast? Because I understand it stuns the tank, but
yeah,
it's sellable, right?
it depends on like how ready the healer is to dispel, because it is a dispellable cast. But I mean, this is a good time, like let's say you can fit in your solar beam, but then you can use solar beam on, let's say, the mini boss as well, just so that you also get the lockout on that guy, right? Because this is a special case. Like if you solar beam on one of the priests or the mages, then you would not lock out the, let's say, the mini boss as well. You have a pretty long lockout with solar beam when like on your main target. It's actually quite good.
How long is it in comparison to other stuff?
I think it's 5 seconds, right, solar beam? Does not say on the tooltip.
I don't know. Let me see.
It doesn't say,
says
right?
That the silence lasts 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't say.
But I mean, so far it's been going pretty well. I don't think the route has been that difficult at all. Pretty decent puck route.
I like it.
Yeah.
What are some adjustments you might suggest for a group that wants to do hierarchies that maybe is not a pack group?
I mean, I think a lot of the trash that you guys have been doing, you could, of course, like combine that and get more value out of each pull by adding more count and stuff. But then, of course, starts becoming a bit more complicated, where you need to have like a nice CC chain and stuff like that. Like for example, the two like the pack you guys are doing right now. The standard thing here is to actually play this pack with the boss. And then you can have someone like you, for example, be outside. The Lynx's leaps on target, like in range. So if everyone's a melee and you're standing outside, you're gonna be the one that's gonna be guaranteed getting leapt on. And then you can just
that's good to know.
Combine that with like a vortex, for example. Or you can just sidestep as well. Like you can also outrun them, and then you completely avoid the bleed from them.
I guess the sharpshooters would then jump out, but it's not that big of a deal if they can just get gripped back in, I guess. Maybe it would be better to have a DK in the group, I guess.
Yeah, if you have a DK, it helps a lot. But you can also be in melee and then just out heal and press a few personals on pull, and then you can step out on the second wave, for example, because then the sharpshooters will have their leap on cooldown.
Okay, yeah.
Because you only have one vortex for one leap, right? So you can be in melee on pull, and then if you really want to optimize it a lot, then you can stand outside with vortex on the leap wave, where that also overlaps with the sharpshooters getting their disengage back at the same time. You double dip the value of the vortex, but then it requires a little bit more pre-planning and know that exact timing.
And if you vortex the cats, they don't like do any damage in melee, right? Because there's other cats that did that in the past.
No, they don't.
Like when they get gripped in. Okay.
Yeah. But DK
can you also interrupt the leap mid jump? So if I incap roar them before they hit me, would I stop the damage too, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can. So
it's easier to just sidestep it, I guess. Or it's not easier, but it would cost me less damage.
It also works similarly to I don't know if you knew in the past, but You remember those guys that charged in Knockhood Offensive, the dungeon? And applied a bleed in the beginning of the
yeah.
dungeon? Yeah. Did you ever like root those mid-charge to like avoid the damage?
I always just Inca board them or Typhoon them.
Okay.
Or just like a disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Vortex also worked.
Yeah, because
you can root them as well. That's kind of nice.
Yeah, you can, exactly.
That.
You played with the instant root talent when you were playing, I remember. Feral Druid. You had that was so nice. And you just timed the root, and then it also just would go on cooldown and would do no damage. But yeah, those you could also sidestep. So they're kind of similar to that mechanic, these dogs.
So for Shadow Melting, the fixate or the jump from this boss here, is there any downside of doing that?
No, there's not.
Okay.
Like if I would just like, if you know you have strong damage, or personal up, you don't melt it. But whenever, let's say, there's an overlap, and you don't have strong damage to break the absorb shield, that's a good time to melt, right? Like when the AoE from the boss is happening. That's like a good way of playing it in a high key. It does do a lot of damage, especially in combination with the AoE from the boss. But yeah, Night Elf is broken on this fight. I mean,
Night Elf in general is really good in this dungeon for the light spawn fixate as well, I guess.
Yeah, it's a really good Night Elf dungeon. Like you said, first boss and all the light spawns. And light spawns, I mean, you guys didn't play any of them so far. I mean, they do quite a lot of damage, but they also, they kill themselves off at 25%. And they give a lot of count. So they are the most efficient count in the dungeon. When you look at like how much HP you have to, how much damage you have to do in order to kill them, it's very low. Because 25% of its HP just gets cut off, but they do quite a lot of damage. That is true. Especially in combination with like, you're playing it with the High Priest, for example. That was like the standard pull that we did, right? We were doing the double light spawn with the mini boss.
Yeah.
So
I saw that. That looks crazy.
Yeah, it is definitely a very technical pull, right? Because you have to. There's a lot of AoE stops. There's a lot of light spawn damage at the same time. And there's also, you need to rotate kicks as well on the mini boss too. So there's a lot of things happening. You need to play personals good, you need to do your CC chain, and you need to rotate interrupts as well. While, being good at pressing Shadow Meld and defensives at the same time. Because the reflective shield also does damage, right? Like you kind of like deal damage to yourself while the shield is up. Yeah, it's not the easiest pull, that one, fair enough.
So if you would either do like a lot higher keys in a pug, or there's a coordinated group, would you recommend that you want to pull a little bit more light spawns for efficiency's sake, I guess? I mean, maybe not 2 light spawns with the mini boss, but
yeah, I mean, if I was gonna make a route that's pug friendly, I would be looking at the like efficiency of like routing, right? So first of all, like make count that's like does as little pulls as possible in an efficient way. And at the same time, maybe you want to, it makes a big difference if it's with comms or not comms. One thing you could do is pre-assign like certain things. You can have like an auto marker weaker or something with kicks. And then generally I would not do too many, let's say, casters. I'd say in this dungeon, try and like avoid that. So play a little bit more warlunks, sharpshooters, light spawns, and try and be a little bit light on the interrupt department, because in pugs, there is cast expected to go off. So you don't like having 1 or 2 casts goes off here and there is not gonna kill your pug. But if you start doing like 6+ casters and someone doesn't do his, AoE stop at the right time, then it's a very high chance someone's gonna die. So like the ending part of the dungeon is actually quite easy that way. It's not too much going on, but there's a lot of damage because there's paladins, there's light spawns, and then every single mob that's like undead in the end of the dungeon, they explode whenever they die and do damage. But that's something that can be stopped as well. Like if you do any type of CC on them as they die, they actually don't do any damage to the group. So you could do an in-cap roar, they can be mid-air with a typhoon, or whatever, you have a stun, and then when they die, they do no damage. That's a good thing to do.
What did you guys, or what's like the most reliable thing to stop that damage from happening? I assume it's a stun. That would be the best. Chaos Nova or something?
Yeah, Chaos Nova is good, right? AoE stun that lasts a decent amount of time. You can also like do a CC chain that starts, you know, with a Nova, and then you do like a few stops after that until everything's dead. So you have like a scripted one. You have the DK single target stun asphyxiate, right? Which is 5 seconds, really easy to time. But of course, in-cap roars and disorients and knockbacks and stuff like that is not the best things to use, right? Because obviously, while you're doing that, you're also not doing damage to finish them off.
Yeah.
And they're also getting knocked away from the team and not in the air for very long. So those are like the last things you should be doing when you're like out of stops completely. But there's also casters in those pulls as well, right? So you also need to think about which stops you're using on those pulls, right? That's why Beam and Silence Rune is really good, because it does nothing for footman damage, but really good at stopping the casters.
Yeah, for this, but I just realized that we don't have a DK, so I don't know if everyone else realized too, but I was like, maybe I should help Soak, like, because nobody felt responsible.
Yeah, that's true. This boss becomes a lot easier with a DK in the group. You can just AMS every second one. So it looks like tank is going for 2, and the rest are just like splitting it a little bit. Yeah. If I were you here, I would probably done a little bit earlier while the darkness was up, but
yeah,
that would probably make it take a lot less damage.
Yeah. So for the assigning that you mentioned, like, is that something you would recommend people do in packs? That you say, like, at the very start of the dungeon, maybe like assign 2 markers, like one is the tank interrupts mainly, and one is maybe the DK or the melee that you're playing? Because I guess it's hard to assign a marker for a Moonkin. Maybe even a mage would be hard to assign when their interrupts are a bit longer. But I guess for DK and tank, it would be fine.
Well, I would assign the kick on the mage as well, because it is 20 seconds. Whenever they have 24 seconds baseline, and then when they, similar to like when you hit a target with it, it gets reduced by 4 seconds. And then you have shifting power too. And you have a longer lockout than the rest of the team. So I would assign the mage too. I mean, is it required to like assign those things? I'm not quite sure if it is. I think going in with a little bit more YOLO is not necessarily a bad thing if you just build a route around it and not make it like too complicated. I think when it comes to like success of puck groups, you are a bit reliant on the tank being good. I think I think tanks have a massive impact on the results of any puck key. You're playing with a good tank that plays really well, does good CCs and doesn't die. I mean, then it makes a massive difference. Like the only thing you can do as a DPS player really is you kind of get an idea of like how good your group is and like what's expected of you. So kind of like analyze a little bit of your like teammates and what they're doing. And then, you know, like just as a Moonkin, what are you gonna do really? Like you just press your beam on each pull and then you just do as much damage as you can. That's really all you gotta do. You can do some cool things in this dungeon when you're playing the light spawns. And that's like when they're close to 5% HP is taunt them out, for example. So that makes it easier than the tank kiting the mobs, especially when it's mob that doesn't move that much. Like the paladins, for example, they have the divine toll and they have the consecration, and then you have casters as well. So there you kind of have a big impact on like making that clean. So just taunting them out right before they're about to die, or using a knockback to knock them out of the circle, things like that.
So I guess one question that I would, because just to explain like why this whole bootcamp thing was even happening, right? Like I started playing this season, but I wasn't like super motivated because I really didn't like season 1 of M+. And then I was kind of playing, but I didn't really like try to push super high keys. I was just kind of like, you know, kind of not really paying attention, because kind of like chilling and just pugging a bit, right? And then I ended up doing, like, I guess I got up to like doing 13s and 14s, which I managed to do without having a super in-depth understanding of all of the dungeons, right? And then at some point I was like, you know what, maybe I should learn all of the dungeons properly. Maybe I will enjoy them again. Because obviously when you do a dungeon and you don't know exactly what's going on, you can maybe still time it and be there, but it didn't feel very enjoyable to not know what is exactly going on, right? So I was thinking, I'm gonna do this whole boot camp thing. And then I was thinking there might be other people who are in the same boat as I am, that maybe want to start getting into high keys halfway through a season. And at that point, it's kind of hard to get into M+, when people kind of expect a lot of knowledge from you without explaining it, because they're not willing to, because they assume that you just know. How would you kind of like improve your gameplay, I guess? Oh my god, I don't have Shadow Melt. Like, what can you do as a puck player outside of, like, obviously, like, reading mechanics and whatnot, to, like, increase your success chance in your puck groups? Like, can you, as you just said, you need a good tank, right? But what if, like, you can't really rely on a good tank?
No.
So what is there you can do, or what is there you can add to make sure that you're as successful as possible? And what can you do yourself to improve on? Like, what would you focus on the most as a player?
Yeah, like I said, I think how good teams are in your team is obviously completely out of your power, right? Like you don't decide if you're joining a group that's a good tank or whatever. So like, what can you do? I'd say that if you're someone that's like interested in getting better at M+, I do highly recommend that you have a way to look back at your footage, because I think most of the learning actually comes from analyzing your gameplay and not while you're actually playing it, because you might miss a few things, right? Like, oh, you wiped or you died to this thing, or like what went wrong on this pull, and going back and looking at these things and then finding ways to like deal with them next time, I think is very important, right? Because it gives you.
And how would you do that with something like shadow play, or would you just record?
So I think.
Or would you look at like workout logs or something like that?
Yeah. So the easiest way, I mean, you can log as well, right? There's no doesn't hurt for you to live log and have your own logs to be able to look back on. But I think the simplest solution that I have used for many years now is to set up YouTube live streaming. And then to stream privately to YouTube. So all of the footage is not public, but you have VODs of all your gameplay that you can go back and look at any time. And that, for me, I feel like is the best thing that I have found. Is simply just to set up YouTube live streaming and then stream privately to YouTube. That's what I recommend.
So a question, like one thing that happens to me sometimes is, let's say I'm doing a dungeon, I'm doing a puck, and
you're gonna die
in the middle of this dungeon, in the middle of the dungeon, I feel like, oh, there's something, either like a mechanic that happened that I didn't understand, or something happened, especially when it's the start of me learning the dungeons. There's so many things that I'm unsure about, where I'm like, oh my god, are we... Kill it! Oh, the hero. I guess we're still deflating this still. Well, anyway, so one thing that happens to me, like at the start when I'm trying to learn things, there's like a lot of things that I'm unsure about. But obviously in the middle of the dungeon, I can't check. And then afterwards, even when I'm recording, I forget some of the things that I wanted to check, right? Do you have a way of like noting things down as you're doing the dungeon to remember to look it up afterwards, or do you just have a memory of steel and you don't need that and you always remember everything that you wanted to check out?
No, I do write things down, right? Like whenever there's, for example, if something went wrong in a dungeon, or like if there's certain things that I wasn't happy with in the dungeon, whether it was routing or whether it was an issue of like the pull was being set up or cooldown timings or something, I just write it down, and then I will just have like things to look at like whenever there's like a break or something, or if I'm with my team, I just be like, if I don't have time to write things down, I'll say, guys, just can you guys remind me that I want to say something after the dungeon.
I love that. Just give the burden to the other players.
Then one guy will like remember it, because like, yes, I will of course also forget it sometimes, but yeah, that helps. Just saying that to in voice. But of course.
Did you mute yourself on purpose or an accident?
Oh my God! Oops.
Okay.
Yeah, that helps a lot. But I mean, that's not something you can do when you're playing with other like, let's say when you're playing with a team, right? But yeah, that helps. Yeah, definitely writing things down is a good thing. I mean, when you're pugging, I mean, if you have a notepad on your second monitor or something, you can just quickly do that as well, I guess.
Okay, so you don't have. So you're doing it at a notepad on your second monitor, or do you have like a channel in game that you're like write into or something, or real life pen and paper?
Well, usually if it's just like for my personal use, it's like a notepad, or if it's things that. If it's things that's dungeon related, that is not just for myself, but like for the team, then what we have is like individual dungeon channels, right? So like you just have a list of like all dungeons, and then in that one, whenever there's a discussion or anything related to that dungeon they want to talk about, you write in that channel, and that helps a lot to first of all keep nice track. So it doesn't get lost in the general chat with like tons of different messages. That's like when you're discussing different dungeons and things like that. It's nice to just keep them separated dungeon by dungeon. To always go back and look at things if you wanted to, see something, or like if there's anything discussion related to that dungeon, then you just keep it in that channel. That's a nice way of doing it.
That's a good tip for, I guess, coordinated groups and stuff that want to get better as well. That's definitely something that they can pick up. All right, cool. So yeah, then you write things down, and then afterwards you just check your YouTube VODs. And I guess you're always going to be logging and stuff like that too, because sometimes you see something in a VOD, but you don't actually see exactly what happened still. Also, wait, one question real quick. How do you stop these neophytes here from coming up? Like, where would I put my vortex here?
You would put the vortex on the side where the demon hunter is not putting his fear sigil. So
it doesn't matter where. Like,
he put it. Yeah, so you go to the other side exactly. But,
okay.
But you have two demon hunters and they both did it.
Oh, sure.
And then, I mean, you can also do it at the top of the stairs. You lost way too many brain globals doing that just now. Like, you don't have to care about it too much. Like, and then this wave right here, I mean, he doesn't have a grip sigil. This is a good typhoon for you to do right now. Exactly. So that's what I mean, this was a good way of doing it. But yeah, you could have just stood there and like hit the shield, and then you could do it at like the tip of the stairs. That would have been fine.
Okay.
You don't have to do it.
I thought there's like some secret spot where it works really well or something.
No, and it also like you're playing with let's say an arcane mage as well. So like if they are vortex and slow at the top of the stairs, the arcane mage also gets resonance value, which is his funnel, and he gets a few orb procs as well on the boss, which would be able to hit the ads at the top of the stairs as well. So you help him out too. That's speaking from a mage PoE, so like it would have been good to do it at the top of the stairs.
I do actually also have a question about mage funnel as well, because I mean I understand that they have funnel, but so how does it work exactly? You need to have a certain amount of targets for it to actually work, right? You need 5 in total.
5 is the max, yes.
But that's the maximum. But you also get value from already 2.
You get you get value from each target. So the way it works is that you have a talent called Resonance that makes your barrage do 15% more damage per target, up to a maximum of 5. But that's not the only thing though. You also, whenever you have something called like Aether Attunement, which makes your missiles cleave to more targets too. And you have something called Arcane Harmony. And if you have more targets there, your missiles give you 20 stacks immediately, which also increases your barrage damage. And you get a lot of orb procs as well. Plus you have 2 charges of orb too. And orb gives you arcane charges back for each target hit. So you get max arcane charges all the time by having, that many targets too. So it's barrage damage, plus you rebuild your arcane charges faster, which makes you do more barrages in general. So it's not just increased damage, it's also just more barrages. So that's what the funnel is. So the whole theory behind Arcane Mage funnel is that you barrage, and then you build your charges back up, you barrage, you build your charges back up. That's kind of how they do funnel damage.
Okay.